Okay, so this is first chapter, and I've tried to renumber these things. Again, the presentations and some of the stuff I got from a different book. It's the other part of this book. I won't say the other half because, as you notice when you go through it, they mix. The chapters have been mixed. It's not like they went through 1 through 10 hardware and then 1 through 10 software. It's 1, 2 hardware, 3 software, and then 7's the next software. What she did was write 2 books, make more money selling 2 books, right? But then they consolidated the 2 books into 1 book, and that's that monstrosity that you have. So this stuff should track from the book. I've done some not complete comparisons of the book, but I've done some pages, different chapters, and yeah, they're the same for the 2 books. Objectives: how to use the Windows to interface with users, files, folders, applications, and hardware. Some of this stuff, particularly tonight, you probably will have already done. That's okay. Just treat it as a review. What can we do with Windows? And that's part of what it is. There are some things that they're particularly proud of, like the arrow interface, which I've turned on this machine to demonstrate the arrow shaking, and I turned it off because it slowed the machine down so much with all the other stuff that I had running that I couldn't get anywhere. But we're going to look at the interface. There's a couple of little labs to do with that. So we'll do that. I don't want to get too far ahead because of the, hopefully, numbers of some aren't here tonight. Some of the Windows tools that you can use to examine and support the system. Windows comes with a tremendous number of tools. We're not going to find them all in this particular class, but by the time you get through, there are a lot of free tools that come with Windows. There are a lot of monitoring tools that come built in with Windows. You can go buy a third party, pay $50, $40, $100, $200, $300, and a lot of them are just shells or interfaces that actually run the utility that's already available for you. If you want a whole suite of Windows tools, they're available, and I don't know if they're posted here or not. If not, I'll get you the website. Just come to me. sysinternals.com. For a long time was an independent, and it was so good that Windows bought it, but they really haven't destroyed it yet. But if you want a whole suite of what you can do, different things you can do with Windows, sysinternals is one of the things it does there. So operating system, we've heard that. What does it do? What is an operating system? And we're going to hear about network operating systems and desktop operating systems. Network operating systems are usually talking about servers. The differences between a Windows 7 machine and a Windows Server 2008 machine is not really very much in the basic operating system. What a server has is more services, more stuff that'll run on it. We can, in Windows 7, we can have a personal web server where you can have your own web page run off of your Windows 7 machine or your Windows XP machine or even your Windows 95 machine for that matter. But it has a limited number of connections. When we put a web server on a server, we have unlimited connections to it. It will support more users. So the scope of what goes on a server operating system is different than what might be on a desktop, on an individual workstation. But the operating system controls the computer, and they're going to have this nice little picture here in a minute about what goes on. So the operating system controls the computer, interprets things, because we really like to use, in our case, English. We like to type in English, but that computer doesn't understand English. The operating system interprets what we put into the keyboard, translates it, and sends it to machine language to the computer so that the hardware can actually take action on what we want it to do. 4 main functions provide the user interface, a nice pretty picture that we have when Windows comes up. And when we had DOS, a nice pretty C prompt, or whatever you happen to have there in DOS. Manages files, and that's one of the big things it does. Everything starts with a file. The operating system, the Windows operating system, is in a folder called Windows, right? And then there are thousands, I don't know exactly how many, but thousands of files are available. the computer reads those files. Sometimes it reads them and keeps them in memory. Sometimes it reads them when it needs that particular operation. It manages the hardware and manages application. Manages the hardware so that we can use the memory, we can use the printer, we can use the hard drive, those kinds of things. Manages application so that you can type your term papers and spreadsheets and whatever else that we need with those things. This is a true statement, and this is something that you might be asked about. The only true upgrade to Windows 7 is from Windows Vista. If you have Windows XP machines, and there's a number of students out there that are in places that have Windows XP machines that have decided all of a sudden, not really all of a sudden, but have decided that they want to go to Windows 7, you can't put in the DVD and do a direct upgrade from Windows XP to Windows 7. Earlier, I talked about migration, and that's the term that we'll use, and we'll do a migration project on Thursday where you'll migrate from Windows XP to Windows 7. I call it an upgrade. It's really not an upgrade. An upgrade is something you put in the DVD and you upgrade it and you don't have to do anything else. And everything that was there, all of the programs that were installed are installed. And you just get the new system. Problem with upgrades is if you have any problems, you still got the problems. Upgrades are not designed to fix problems, and that's what a lot of people, oh, this is not working, well, I'll just upgrade it. Well, you upgrade it, now you've upgraded your problem. You have it at a different level. If you want to do upgrades from Windows XP, what you need to do is get a Windows Vista disk, because you don't actually have to license it. You don't actually have to license Windows 7 for 6 months. You can use it, try it out for free. I don't think they did the same thing with Windows 8. But with Windows 7 and the ones that we use, educational licensing is a lot different than commercial licensing. But these machines, when you install them, are automatically good for 30 days, and then you can renew them until you get up to 180 days use out of it. At the end of 180 days, it blows up, and you lose everything that you had. So you don't want to keep going with that. You don't really lose everything you have. It does blow up, and you can't use the operating system. It doesn't destroy the data that's on the disk, but it does stop operating. So if you wanted to upgrade from Windows XP to Windows 7, you would put your Vista DVD into your Windows XP machine. And when you upgrade from XP to Vista, you have to be running in XP. The operating system, the current operating system, has to be running. So it's only upgraded from a running operating system. That changed. It used to be that you upgraded them from a non-running operating system. Now the operating system has to be running. So you can upgrade from Windows XP to Windows Vista and then upgrade from Windows Vista to Windows 7. Not the recommended path. Most experts, and I'm not one of those, recommend, and I'll agree with them, that the best way is to do a fresh install, reinstall all your applications. Because if you will notice, after you put any of these things in, the Windows folder in particular grows tremendously. It just grows and grows and grows. So whatever Microsoft recommends as the minimum size for the Windows partition, double it or triple it, because it's going to get that big. A lot of temp files. Doesn't do a great job in many cases cleaning itself up when we do those things. To be a power user on a Windows 7 and be familiar with Vista and XP, it needs to be a power user. When we get into users and they just kind of jump into these things, right? What the heck's a power user? What we have on machines, when we initially install a Windows machine, there are going to be two users on there. An administrator who has all the power in the world to do anything that they want to on the machine, and a guest which has about no power and is disabled. And Windows 7, by the way, the administrator account is disabled. And when you initially install it, you have to create an account. The account that you create is an administrative account. That's probably a little misleading. It doesn't run as the administrator all the time, and that was one of the security things that happened with Vista. And and has now been incorporated in Windows 7, is that administrative accounts don't run with administrative authority. And when you get ready to do something to the hard drive or to the registry or those sorts of things, you get this little pop-up that says, do you want to do this? The user accounts control. If you didn't do it, say no. If you did do it, say yes, keep going. Vista was very irritating in that it seemed like every time that you moved the mouse, it wanted to know if you really did that. Windows 7, not nearly as irritating, and that's my technical term, not nearly as irritating as the rest of them. Windows XP doesn't have that. Windows XP, if you have an administrative user, then you're running as an administrative user. That can cause you a lot of heartburn if you go to websites that aren't really renowned for their professionalism and, you know, that you can get infected with, because when you log on to a Windows machine, everything runs with the authority of that user. So if you log on as an administrator and you start Microsoft Word, Microsoft Word's got administrative authority. If you log on as an administrator and you start a web browser and go to givemeavirus.com, then the web browser went to givemeavirus.com as an administrator, which means that once they gave you the virus, it can install the virus. Ordinary users can't install software. Administrative users can. Power users can also. A power user is kind of like the next level down from administrator. They have all the installation authority. They can do everything that the administrator can do, but they can't see other people's files. They can't see other people's directories, whereas the administrator can. This is the picture that I promised you. The application Microsoft Word goes to the operating system Windows 7 and then gets access to the CPU, printer drive, the control that goes on with the operating system. And that's what this is supposed to represent. Everything gets a little bit of processing power, and there is a whole hierarchy of priorities that goes on automatically behind the scene to ensure that everything that's running gets a little bit of processor time, because that's what everything wants. And when we talk about these processors, we talk about the speed. Say, oh yeah, it's really fast. Well, we're talking about a gigahertz, and that's the one I can do the arithmetic on. We're talking about 1 billion things a second are going on. So a lot of stuff can happen in a couple seconds here to get some of that stuff done. The desktop is the initial screen, the GUI, the graphical user interface, the thing that we see that we love. And that for all of you who are going into IT, you're going to say goodbye to it. Because when you actually get into managing servers, you're probably going to use the command line now. They have a new server. See, everybody just hates DOS. You guys haven't. You haven't had DOS yet, but you will. You do the command line. The core version of Windows 2008 has no GUI. All it has is a command prompt. And if you close the command prompt, the only thing you can do is reopen the command prompt. Server 2012 has got a little bit more control. You kind of can pick how much GUI you want, but it starts out in the GUI, and then you're supposed to take all the GUI stuff away because it makes it more secure. It makes the attack, what we call the attack surface, smaller. Fewer things running, fewer places to attack it. 3D user interface called Arrow, and this is, again, one that they're very proud of, and that Microsoft at least loves to ask questions about it. I told you I turned it on this machine and did this stuff. Yes, it works, and I turned it off so that we could do the presentation here. It's not available for Windows 7 in the Starter, Home, and Basic editions. 7 requires a gigabyte of RAM and a video card that supports DirectX 9. The number of editions of Windows 7 is relatively large, and that's why I want to see it's not there. What I think I want to do, this one is from a different course, and it's actually one that was done by Microsoft. And these are the different versions and who they're designed for. The Windows Home Premium is designed for the consumer. Standard Consumer Edition doesn't include the business features, and the businesses are Windows 7 Professional, Enthusiast Ultimate, Enterprise is the Windows 7 Enterprise, has some capabilities that the others don't have. Entry level, the Windows 7 Starter, and the Windows 7 Home Basic. Value Edition means it's not going to do a whole lot, right? Now let's see if this thing will work right. Here we go. The different capabilities of these things. The Starter for small form factor PCs in all markets. So small form factors, when we think that, we think not very powerful. Only 32-bit features, the taskbar, the Windows search, the ability to join a home group, not a domain, so we couldn't use it in an enterprise. The Action Center, broad applications and device, all those things. Secured, reliable, and so you look, they're going to all say secured, reliable, and supported operating system. So the Starter Edition, the Home Basic, value PCs in emerging markets, and we're not an emerging market. Emerging market, think probably Africa, something like that. For accessing the internet and running basic productivity applications, so it's one that we're not going to be able to do a whole lot with. Windows 7, no limit on the number of programs you can run, a live thumbnail, advanced networking support, and you can see that we're kind of, I think, stretching to have things that go in here. Windows Home Premium, standard edition for customers. Most of the stuff you're going to go to Best Buy or Walmart or whatever else is going to have Home Premium on it. All the features available in the basic edition, and each of these, well, as you go up, is going to have everything that was available in the one below it. It has the Arrow Glass, Windows Touch, and handwriting support, ability to create a home group. Remember, the one before could join a home group. We can now create a home group. A home group is something that you can create at your house and share folders or whatever else to it, and anybody that joins the home group can then see that stuff that you've shared. It's kind of a handy way to create a home network, home group network. Groups those guys together. DVD playback and authoring, Windows Media Center, snipping tool, sticky notes. We've added a little bit more functionality to it here. One of the things to me and to you as a network administrator that's missing is the ability to connect to it remotely using a remote desktop. You can connect from it using a remote desktop, but you can't connect to it using a remote desktop. So as we go on up, Windows 7 Professional, and this is the one, by the way, Windows 7 Professional, that you get in your MSDNAA account, whatever the name really is now. Business-focused, small to middle-level companies who have network backup, security needs, multiple PCs. The features include everything in the Home Premium Edition, and also core business features such as domain join, which we haven't been able to do up till now. Domain is something that we're going to use in a business when we join the domain. When you log on here, you log on to the domain. So an Active Directory domain. Group policy, data protection, advanced networking and backup, the ability to print to the right printer at home or at work, remote desktop host. I can connect to it using a remote desktop. Windows Virtual PC and Windows XP mode. Windows XP mode and Virtual PC is similar. The XP mode runs on Windows Virtual PC. What it does is if you install this thing and you have applications that would only run in XP, it will go to the XP application through the Start menu in Windows 7. You don't have to actually switch to the virtual machine. If you're using a virtual machine, you'd have to switch to the virtual machine to run the XP application. So XP mode is something that's available there. Enterprise includes BitLocker and BitLocker to go. BitLocker is the ability to encrypt the entire hard drive. So that's what that one does. AppLocker is the ability to control which applications users can use. You can limit which applications can be started. Direct access branch cache, this is stuff that's kind of Active Directory involved. It's nice, and it may be the words, but when we do the Windows classes, hopefully get a little bit better feel for what that is when we do those things. All worldwide interface languages, the ability to put language support onto the system. When my son was in Spanish class, the teacher taught them how to type stuff with all the, the special characters to make the Spanish characters. You can install the language support. You don't have to do that. You can just switch the keyboard and you can get that support, language support in the individual ones. Virtual desktop infrastructure, so it's added more virtualization support. Ultimate and Enterprise, the same software in a different, with a different name. But those are the different editions of Windows. Why is that important? When you start installing stuff as an administrator or as a networker or making recommendations, what does each one do? What are the limitations? What are the capabilities of each one? So those things are necessary. And I thought that Microsoft did a really nice job on that slide. But let's get back to our course at hand here. So the desktop's the GUI, the arrow we talked about, and yes, this is the desktop. Kind of looks like this is the standard, right? The translucent here is usually the arrow indicator when we do those things, and there are a number of things that can go there. These are the gadgets, can show up over here, the clock, whatever else you have. Number of gadgets. These are not the only ones that are available. You can go on the internet and get other gadgets if you want it. Runs in an area over here called the sidebar. And if you look at the running applications, there will be one there that says sidebar, which is going to take some resources. You can turn it off if you want. It's not anything that's really that detrimental, but it is one that's there. And one of the things that they show up here are sticky notes. Those are kind of handy, and I found those kind of handy in some of the classes when I go back and do the grading in the virtual machines. Put a sticky note up there and make comments about what's going on or what somebody might do to make the lab that they're doing a little bit easier or to get going. Or if you want to leave notes to yourself or notes to other users, the sticky notes are available there. It is something that I hadn't used until then. Start menu.